Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be comparing the G4560 with the Ryzen 3 1200, but the Ryzen 3 1200 will be with and without overclock. I managed to overclock it to 3.9 GHz. To do the overclock you just need a B350 board and the stock cooler is good enough. I've seen a lot of people overclocking it and they were at least at 3.7 GHz, and it's very easy to do the overclock. I'll link to a tutorial on how to overclock that CPU down in the description. The G4560 unfortunately cannot be overclocked. Well, this test will be done using a GTX 1080 Ti. Yes, I know my channel is not about high-end cards, but that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is to compare those CPUs. And in order to compare CPUs, you need to be CPU bound. This means that the GPU shouldn't be at 99% when you're comparing CPUs. The CPU needs to be the limiting factor in order to have a proper comparison. That's why you see all major sites that have CPU comparisons and that they use high-end GPUs to do the comparisons. So yeah, in my channel, I won't be doing GTX 1080 Ti benchmarks or anything like that. It will only be used to do comparisons on some CPUs. So yeah, I'm going to be testing 11 games, and you will see the G4560 at the left, in the middle the Ryzen 3 without overclock, and on the right the Ryzen 3 1200 with the 3.9 GHz overclock. And I'll show you on many different games. Some favor AMD, some Intel, some don't favor any of those particular ones. The Ryzen 3 1200 PC was using the RAM at 2933 MHz. Since my 2133 MHz RAM was able to boost up to that number, so it was fine. Unfortunately, the G4560 on the motherboard I have for it, I can only do 2133. So if you have a motherboard that can do 2400 MHz on the RAM, you should have slightly better performance on the G4560, which will mean that it will be closer to the Ryzen 3 1200. So yeah, that's what the video is about, comparing those two CPUs. And remember, the point is to be CPU bound in order to compare the CPUs. But if you don't want to see that, just follow the links down in the description and the pinned comment, where I have videos using the G4560 with cheaper GPUs like the 1050 Ti, the 1060. Same with the Ryzen 3 1200 with and without overclock. I have GTX 1050 Ti with overclock with the GTX 1060. So if you want to see that instead of this comparison, just follow the link down in the description or the pinned comment. So anyway, I'll let the video speak by itself, and I'll see you at the end of the video with my conclusions.
What'd you do back home? Drove a car. I was a chauffeur. All stop. This is far enough. Infantry will go on the first whistle. Then we follow.
Heavens above. You ever seen anything like this?
I have, I'm sorry to say.
Listen, we're going to cut down the guns up by that windmill. Give our boys some room. That's our cue. Full ahead! Fire incoming!
Artillery's tearing the boys apart!
Don't let those deaths be for nothing. Move! They got one of ours! Eyes front, drive! guns.
I appreciate not being a target, no right!
The more wire we can clear, the faster our men can move.
Got too much dirt in that hair? Get it trimmed. You won't regret it.
Move along.
Squatters, right here. There's skull bashes in the Commonwealth.
Diamond City Surplus. Everything you need.
Don't let the stress of life kill you.
Nothing to see here.
If you'll excuse me, Congressman. Urgent matter. Do enjoy your evening.
Yes, you're on.
Okay, you are looking.
Okay guys, so conclusion time. Remember that the G4560, as I said at the beginning of the video, was using 2133 MHz RAM. So if you have faster RAM, for example 2400 MHz, will give you a little better frame rates, which will make it even closer or sometimes better than the Ryzen 3 1200, since the numbers are already very close on some games. On Fallout 4, for example, the G4560 ran way closer to those Ryzen CPUs. That's because that game doesn't run well on Ryzen. For what I could see, on Ryzen it was running awful until I overclocked the Ryzen 3. But on the games that take advantage of the 4 cores, you can see the difference. But sometimes for some reason on the non-overclocked Ryzen, I saw more stutter than on the G4560. I'm not 100% sure why that's the case, maybe due to the lower single-threaded performance, since on the overclock chip you could see that the frame times were more stable overall. But yeah, personally, if I had to choose, I would get Ryzen. Why is that? Well, the G4560 is on the 1151 socket, but on the 1151 socket that Intel no longer supports, for saying it some way. The Coffee Lake processors need the 300 series motherboards, so if you want to get an i3-8100 for example, you need to buy a new motherboard, which at the moment, at the time of making this video, Intel didn't release any of the cheap Coffee Lake motherboards, like the B360. Those are planned for early 2018, so maybe from January to March we'll see new motherboards releasing. You can still get a very good experience on the G4560, but due to the upgrade path that you get on Ryzen, I prefer to go that way. If you go for the Ryzen 3, for example, you get the AM4 socket that AMD claims that it will last till 2020. So you have compatibility with new AMD CPUs till 2020, which in my opinion is a great feature, since you can keep the motherboard till 2020 and just upgrade CPUs just fine. Of course, if you're not willing to overclock the Ryzen 3, you might get lower performance on the G4560 on some single-threaded performance intensive games, for saying it some way, like Fallout 4. RAM is also very expensive right now, and Ryzen benefits from faster RAM. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm using 2933 MHz on the RAM, but I was kinda lucky because I was using my 2133 MHz RAM and I was able to boost it to 2933 without a problem. Just by playing with the latencies of the RAM, it was possible, but I know that not everybody will be able to do that, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But well, to sum up, I would recommend the Ryzen 3 1200 if you are willing to overclock or you want a good upgrade path, since AM4 will still be here till 2020, that's for sure according to AMD. If you're not willing to overclock the CPU, which is very easy, I will get a Ryzen 3 1300X. That one boosts itself automatically, so you can get closer to my overclock results, so keep that in mind. But also the G4560 is cheaper and you can get very cheap motherboards, so maybe if you're on a very tight budget, that might be a better option. It all depends on prices on your region, on your budget, and well, what are your preferences? Do you want a better upgrade path? You are willing to overclock, all that kind of stuff. So those are things that you should consider when you're trying to buy a new CPU. Also, you need a B350 board in order to overclock Ryzen 3. Those are not that expensive compared to A320, but the G4560 has some very cheap motherboards. But yeah, personally, I will go for Ryzen or wait for cheap coffee-like motherboards and get an i3 8100 or the new Pentium CPUs. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.